It is 10:05 a.m. We'll call the regular meeting of the Libertarian Party of Ohio's Executive Committee to order. We'll get started. Let's actually, if wouldn't mind, as the first part of call to order, if the secretary is ready, please call the roll.
All right. Chair Jim Cavoli.
Present.
Vice Chair Patrick Glasgow.
Present.
Treasurer John Moeller.
Here.
Secretary Jennifer Flower, present. Chris Gill.
Here.
Justin Nana.
Here.
Derek Strelo. Not present. And who else do we have joining us at the office today?
We don't have anybody else in person. And it does appear that the Deputy Vice Chair, Helen Gilson, is here as well.
Excellent. So we do have 6 of 7 seated members present. We do have quorum.
Mr. Chair,
Excellent.
I move that Mr. Strelo be excused from this meeting based on family reasons.
Absolutely.
Right. Sorry, did everybody hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to excuse Mr. Strollo's absence due to personal family obligations. Is there any objection? That absence is excused. Moving on, disclosures. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest or other material disclosures to make for the purposes of this meeting and your role in it? Hearing none, we will move to the adoption of the agenda. The agenda has been distributed 8 days prior, meeting the 7-day requirement to members for the meeting. Are there any alterations that anyone would wish to propose? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as distributed. Is there any objection? The agenda is adopted. Minutes from previous meetings. Ms. Flower.
Unfortunately, I did not get those finished. I'm almost done. I will have them uploaded later today for review.
All right. We'll move on from the approval of minutes. Review of business conducted between meetings. There is one matter that has been conducted between meetings, which was the appointment of Helen Gilson as Deputy Vice Chair, which passed, and there was no other business conducted between meetings. All right, flying right along. Congrats on beating the time limits, everyone, so far. We'll move to reports from party officers. Ms. Flower.
For my report, nothing other than this week I was contacted by Rank the Vote Ohio. They provided me their updated legislative language, which I will review and upload for everyone else's review. They would like for our participation in their monthly meeting on February 28th.
All right. Yep. If you can get that distributed to the committee to review the language. I know that was the main sticking point the last time we
Didn't have any?
met. Hopefully we can review that and make a decision on our participation support shortly.
Absolutely. I wanted to specify up front that the language does specify that our ballot access will be based upon the first round vote.
Right.
So That's what they wanted to make sure that we knew right up front.
Yep, that was one of the big things we discussed last time as well. All right, yep, we'll get, if you can get that distributed to the committee, and then we'll send likely at least some officer or officers to that event. Anything else?
No.
All right. Nothing further there. We'll move on. Treasurer, Mr. Mueller.
Treasurer's report's been posted in the drive, but if anyone's interested, we currently have $4,767 in our state candidate fund, $500 in our restricted fund, $1,905 in our general fund, and $113 in our federal fund in our U.S. bank accounts. And we have about $50 in our PayPal account that is yet to be deposited. Linda has been helping with the transition over at Treasurer. We have one piece of paperwork left to file our 30D with Ohio to make her the official deputy treasurer, but just still working through transition and everything.
All right.
I guess one last quick thing. If anyone on this committee, if there's anything in treasurer's reports that you haven't been used to seeing that you would like to see, or things in treasurer's reports that are just extraneous that aren't valuable, let's talk about those things between meetings so that the treasurer's reports start to, help the committee function as well as it can.
All right. Thank you, sir. Vice Chair, Mr. Glasgow.
The Vice Chair's written report is in the meeting folder on Drive. Two big projects I'm currently working on: divisional reorganization and spin up. I talk about it in detail in the Drive, kind of how I've been focused the past month and working with Jim on how we kind of want to restructure divisions, which we'll get to later for sure, and just kind of my goal for that and what I've been working on. The last one, second part I've been working on looking into, I'm in the preliminary stages of a project for a scholarship essay contest, trying to do something annually for outreach to high schools so that we sponsor a scholarship contest in the amount of, $500 for a first prize scholarship or more if we can raise the funds for it. And high school seniors from any high school or homeschool in the state of Ohio that are attending university next year or trade school next year are eligible to participate. We pick a Liberty themed topic. They write a 700 to 1,000 word essay, and then we judge it and award a scholarship based on the best essay, just as a way to kind of get our movement out there, give back to the state a little bit, and to high school seniors, and kind of help build brand awareness. As far as events that upcoming on my radar as the vice chair, 2021 conference has kind of been looming that we've kind of untouched. It's also on the agenda for later today, so I'll just kind of hold there, but that is on my radar. And then staffing updates. Helen Gilson was recently appointed as the deputy vice chair, and then in this next month I'm going to be posting jobs for 5 regional liaisons who are going to move out of the field role and report directly to the deputy vice chair and myself as kind of a better communication for all divisions between the local counties and the state party. And I have nothing else.
All right. Moving on. Myself. So from the office of the chair, we have, as Mr. Glasgow touched on, been taking a hard look at the internal organization of divisions and our relationships with the counties, especially in light of recent changes, enabling a kind of an easier path to more local development. We want to make sure that we keep the state party fulfilling the role of facilitator and enabling as much local action and growth as possible. Then, as Ms. Flower noted earlier, reviewing the inputs from Rank the Vote Ohio, revisiting the information there. I did, just for the sake of homework, review the entirety of the presentation that was given last November again as well, just to make sure I was familiar myself. And if anyone would like to rewatch that segment, we can distribute that via Drive as well, or whatever means is convenient. It's not that long. I think it's about 50 minutes. Beyond that, we have been looking to fill divisional leadership in the state party so far. I am happy to announce as of today, the letters are going out momentarily, well, following the meeting, to extend the offers to Guy Merrill for the IT division and Mr. Kevin Kahn for the political division. Beyond that, we continue to search diligently for a finance director. Really, if anyone has any referrals or potential candidates there, please send them my way, as well as communications. I know our former chair had looked into the possibility of contracting some strategic communications out to a outside firm. I have been reviewing the proposal that was produced from that firm, and depending on how we do with sourcing any volunteers from within the party to head up that role, we may revisit that approach as well. Probably not sooner than next month at the very earliest, but any feedback or thoughts there, again, are always welcome. Other than that, I have little else to report from where I'm at. Just a lot of getting up to speed at present, I think, and finding my happy place with the level of awareness that I need to have to the LNC's activity, which is an excellent segue into Section 3 and reports from National Committee members. At present, the only National Committee members that Ohio has or has present is the Region 3 representative, Mr. Nana.
I have nothing to report.
I'm glad to see that I fell behind, not at all, then, on major goings-on in the last couple of weeks. With that being completed, that concludes reports from party officers and National Committee members. We will move to reports from party directors. As I mentioned earlier, the formal appointments for Mr. Merrill and Mr. Kahn will be going out immediately following the meeting, thereby absolving them of having to file a report on less than 24 hours of activity. So we will be moving through these directors' reports, principally through Mr. Glasgow's information, which has been collected from staff in each of those divisions, as well as the imminently incoming directors. So if anyone has anything to add, please wait until we have finished the initial report on those areas, and then we will move to any additional comments that is necessary for the whole of the body. Mr. Glasgow.
Starting with political, the report is filed in the meeting folder. The first section is a legislative update. There's a few active bills that are currently going on that I've posted a brief summary of, as well as a link to legiscan.com/OH. You can check out any of the active bills. The big thing is there's currently 144 bills that have been introduced this session, and 22 have been completed. Current projects in political division is the 2021 election. We did receive notice last month that we do not have ballot access from the Secretary of State. That was expected. We're unable to run candidates on the ballot as Libertarians. We've spoken with legal counsel. This isn't a report, I completely blanked on it. But based on some previous cases that happened last year that he was involved with, specifically the Green Party filed a lawsuit saying that during a pandemic it would be, difficult to petition. And the federal appeals court came back and said, no, petitioning is a long protected First Amendment free speech, and there is an exception for that in the governor's pandemic orders. So go ahead and petition. There's no recourse there at all. Now, he is looking to see if there's other options there, but he'll keep us informed. As of right now, for 21, we have 64 cases that are started for potential candidates. Of those, 11 have moved past the initial sign up, I want to run phase. The deadline for independent candidates in which a primary race may be held is May 3rd. The deadline for nonpartisan candidates is August 4th. The endorsement policy for 21 has not been released, and no candidates are currently endorsed. 2021 candidate recruitment will continue through local or independent, for independent nonpartisan races through website, social media, email. I'm working with Mr. Kahn and Miss Flower to potentially plan 2 candidate seminars focused on local races this year. One late spring, one early fall. As well as potentially working with the conference planning committee to set up candidate training as well. There's no current events or past events on political's group at the time, and there's going to be a permanent fixture in the political report for ballot access petitioning. Basically, 2021 target numbers from the 2020 election: 5,922,000 votes, 202 votes cast, meaning 59,223 signatures required. We've approached several printers for quotes and bold printing of petitions, and we've begun talking with previous volunteers and donors to determine when and where they believe the best time to start spinning up is, and when they'll be ready, and potentially some larger donations and fundraising and volunteer efforts. Last but not least is staffing updates. Kevin Kahn was recently appointed to assume the role of political director, and interviews for deputy political director for candidates and campaigns are ongoing as that job is posted, and we have a couple applicants.
Does anyone have anything further for the political division report, activities you're aware of that were not reflected?
No.
Then to finance, Mr. Glasgow.
All right, so the written finance report is posted in the meeting folder. As far as for finance goes, the first update on this one is the membership program update for a 2020 wrap-up. Great initial year. We averaged 16 new members per month last year. We figured out how to expand, make things work a little bigger. We purchased the card printer, and then we're going to be adding some accessories here in the beginning of this year to speed things up, because right now we print one at a time, and we're going to purchase a $30 hopper so that I can just stream out 50 cards at a time. Current membership numbers are posted in my report. Basically, we're at 328 sustaining members of the party, between those that give monthly or annually and lifetime members, including one current pioneer of freedom. Mr. Strelo gave very largely last year to elevate himself higher. We're trying to drastically expand this as we're growing more county organizations through the county program, through the growth fund last year. We gave back $679 to the county affiliates that we had from the membership program. So as the membership program continues to grow and the number of county organizations continue to grow, we expect to be able to give more money back to the county so that they can do more work. Other current projects for the finance division, working on something we're trying to look at. I've talked with Jim a little bit, is call it an annual drive. Basically, we're going to pick a 3-month block out of the year. We're going to have a big annual drive every year, prep up to try to focus some major fundraising efforts around that time. It'll probably coincide every year with conference/convention to try to reach out to current, past members, staff, candidates, previous candidates, encourage them to make an extra pledge or donation on top of what they already give just for the annual drive to kind of help us pad the account a little bit more. We'd like to start moving into in-person events for this as well, and depending on how the year goes, we'll look into that. Events past and present. Last year, we scheduled a 2020 Lifetime Donor Dinner that was unable to be held. I just keep putting it on here because we did pay a $250 deposit to McCormick and Schmick's, and they are still holding it for us. They said at any time they'll give it back to us if we want, because it was an act of God that canceled it. But they also said they'll just hang on to it, and we can just schedule an event with them that, hey, it's a $250 deposit. It's already paid. You guys can schedule it. We'll work it out with you. If we want to have an event, either another Lifetime Donor Dinner plan or some other event that we want to plan through them. Staffing update, the finance job director has posted accepting applications, and I am currently serving as the interim director.
Anything further with finance? Information technology.
Okay, so I was unable to post a written report for the rest of these because I kind of got behind at work this week. But for IT, we've been working drastically in the past month to find and update Mr. Merrill from being a deputy director into the director's role. We did post the job to make sure that anybody else that potentially wanted to apply was able to, but he did. Nobody else wanted it, so Mr. Merrill got it. And he is very well suited for the job and ready to take it on. He's already looking into some other expansions. We've been drastically expanding the CRM, some of the process flows, and the size of the server to support the county incoming flux that we're expecting. We built in some tools to build in and further add new users. We've made it a lot easier to access. There is a member sign up, so if you need access to it, I have the link, and I just think it's lpo.org/ and we'll put that out for staff meeting and for staff that needs to get their people access. They fill out the form. It sends their name and email address over to IT. IT creates them a username that gets emailed to their normal email address. It's taken care of. The other thing, we're potentially looking at changing the email syncing system that we're using based on the one we're currently using got flagged for spam. So we can get our own, and Jim might be able to explain this one a little better, but like they can give us our own and we can, but we're going to pay more.
Yeah.
It's like $90 a month.
Yeah, it remains to be seen what that solution is. Mr. Merrill's looking into options, but this is the outbound mail relay. So because we send a high volume of mail, and because of where we run our servers, we cannot do that off of the same machine, and it's not a brilliant idea. This has been in place since the initial migration a year and a half, nearly 2 ago. But we've been using shared IP addresses. Someone else on the system abused it. We still have a great reputation, but that didn't stop the shared address from being flagged for spam. So without getting a dedicated address, which incurs an additional expense and changes kind of the billing structure that we're looking at, we have some deliverability issues with certain email services right now, which is obviously not ideal given the growth that we're aiming for. Buying a dedicated service is likely worth the expense. So he's looking into the options there and the pricing. We both fully expect that that'll fall well within the bounds of, well, what will be the IT division's budget for maintaining these systems by the end of the day.
I have nothing else from IT.
Anything further for information technology? I will just note that I am continuing to make myself available as a resource to the director and staff of that division, given my history with it. Let everyone please rest assured there. I am also, however, trying to manage things correctly, which is why Mr. Glasgow gave the majority of that report. With that, we will move to communications.
The big update on communications right now is that we haven't had a communications director in over a year and a half that has stuck around for longer than a week. We're trying to look at potentially outsourcing, specifically the press end of things, and the interior just be more of a managerial role and supervisor. But that way we can get most of the copy work done by somebody outside, and paper press release or paper article, and potentially adjust a project budget for that, because it's not something that people want to take on most of the time. And it's nice when I can get articles from people, but other people have day jobs and there's not a ton of incentive to take this position. So we are potentially looking at and we can discuss during the budget meeting a little more, contracting out the comms division, specifically the copy work. And I'm looking also to see if I can find an editor for LPO in the Know to try to expand it a little more, and make it a little more worthwhile to read. We've kind of minimized it in the past year just because, once again, we were lacking people. So we would take what we could get, throw it together. But we're trying to expand a little more, include a little more content and feedback to our sustaining members. The other end, we'll talk some to the division reorganization, but some changes in communications, reverting back to some previous structures.
Anything further communications? The only other thing that I will add here is, I mean, just to lay it out for everyone, in general, our communications strategy beyond the somewhat tactical concerns which Mr. Glasgow spoke to, strategically, I would like to see working to position our officers and candidates with the media for commentary on ongoing and contemporary issues in Ohio, be that something statewide with any candidates that we might have coming up for a statewide race, or especially local issues. There's a lot of great local media outlets in Ohio, television, print, and otherwise, radio, and we need to be getting our people's voices into the mix. That is a concern which is not necessarily as easily or affordably contracted out, and is heavy on kind of networking and connections. So if anyone knows of candidates or has an interest in helping to do that and help get our opinions and solutions presented more frequently to more Ohioans through more channels, that is the strategic purpose that I would love to see the communications division fulfill. And anyone with such qualifications, please reach out, and I'd be happy to discuss further. Field development.
Field development division is going through some large changes right now. Specifically, we're moving regional positions from field development into more of the vice chair role, with field kind of moving back into kind of a backward branding, and then slowly attempting to phase it out as we grow more parties locally. The big role of field in the past several years has been to corral and organize the CDGs, and as we develop more affiliates, the plan is to try to roll back field because the affiliates won't need as much babysitting. They're going to kind of do their own thing and work upwards and back and forth between regionals. We figured the coordination between counties was a important enough role that it needed to be handled at the officer level between myself and the deputy vice chair. That way I can report it directly to the chair. And the director's position is kind of interim at this point, just to kind of move things to a more local based structure. We're really trying to push this bottom up structure so we can be successful. Right now, as far as counties go, I have 5 counties that are looking at affiliating. 2 of them have scheduled their original organizational meetings. 2 more are in the process of determining when they want their organizational meetings. And the other one is reviewing some paperwork and some of the how-to stuff we're working on. I've been working with Scott Pettigrew and a couple others to try to develop this how-to kit that's literally like, read this letter first, go on to this, which, page 1 is the how-to, and it's got a step-by-step guide telling you to go to this file in the folder to look at a sample of this or an example of this, and every step along the way, from how to get into and get your people into the back end of the LPO for the chat functions and CRM functions, to how to get taken over for social media, how to arrange your first meeting and sample constitution bylaws. Just really trying to make this as simple as possible for our affiliates so they spend less time worrying about paperwork and rules and more worrying about outreach and growing the party, because that's what we really should be focusing on, is outreach and growing the party at the local level. If they want to sit around and fight about rules, then maybe we need to find a different group of people to take over the county. So that's all I have for field.
Anything further field development?
Last one.
Social media.
Social media. Recently, we had the previous social media director resign, as well as the Facebook admin staff. Facebook has taken a very, very different stance on social media and politics. So right now, we've kind of taken a back road on what we're posting so we can still remain visible, and we're going to try to make it more party focused as opposed to issue, because they don't want to hear the issues. So we're just going to promote ourselves, talk about our members, talk about events we're doing, and talk a little bit about ourselves, because they don't want the issues. They don't want to hear opinions on Facebook. So we're just going to use it to communicate with a few people that still use it. At that point, like I said, right now, just so that there's something going on, I've pre-scheduled every platform plank to be posted every day at noon from now until they run out, which is like February 26th. At that point, I'm going to post every state platform plank, and after that, I'll figure something else out. But there is pre-scheduled posts through the end of the month. We're looking to potentially roll social media back into comms, and just make a Facebook an administrative position, so that it's, hey, all the directors from all the different divisions or admins for Facebook, we have somebody that takes the administrator / moderator role to prevent crazies from screwing up our page, and then just use it for internal, hey, let's promote the party, as opposed to let's fight about an issue because we all want to get shadow banned. So it really doesn't matter, because the reach is just awful. They've done terrible things to that algorithm because they don't want politics on their page anymore. So, hey, it's their business. We'll do what we can. As far as other social media, we're investigating into a social media management software. Basically, we post on the social media management software, and it posts to our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the hell else we want to hook up to it. That way we can ease getting our info out there. Instead of having to go and post in 4 different sites, we post on one and it automatically shows up. Just a way to kind of speed things up. Like I said, we're trying to simplify this and make it usable, and grow the brand. And we can focus outreach in other ways, and we'll have to go back to trying to grow the email list. And that's why we were talking earlier about making LPO and the Know a little more robust and issues oriented, because we are really going to have to reach contact through different means, as opposed to social media. So.
Anything further on social media? All right. That concludes reports from party directors. With respect to old business, as noted on the agenda, there is no old business before the committee which can be considered. And that brings us to new business. I will pause briefly here in case anyone wants to make any motions before we enter new business. And as it appears we do not, we will go ahead and enter new business. New business A, restructuring of divisions. So this agenda item was added especially in light of comments from the officers' reports, as well as those division reports that we just ran through. A desire to make sure that we have the most optimal structure in terms of the number and scope of divisions at the state level that we are managing, staffing, and operating as we go forward. Several underlying assumptions have changed entering this term, as well as sort of the perspective of how we view the responsibilities of some of these divisions. As Mr. Glasgow hinted, the field development position, in light of recent changes to affiliate structure, has largely been removed of much of its responsibility. That does leave, I think, technically organized over there, a statewide volunteer coordinator role. I will leave it to the body, but add the question of whether in general that is a useful role at the state level, or if we should not have more purpose-focused, initiative-focused coordinators for volunteers, even if it's the same person, picked out when we actually need to go get some energy behind something at the state level, and otherwise working to delegate through the counties. That's one thing to consider, because that is really the only role left organizationally in field development, and certainly does not seem to necessitate the entirety of a division around it. The other one that I know was mentioned was social media. Given the changing landscape of social media's appetite for politics in the way that it has previously been approached, as well as changes in how we might be managing strategic communications, outreach, brand awareness, etc. Whether we want to maintain social media as a separate division has once again come up as a question. I am not aware of many other questions as far as divisions or divisional structures. Membership has pretty cleanly been managed in terms of finance rather than field for several months now. In practical terms, and information technology continues to house both our IT and AV things. So with all of that background there, restructuring of divisions, we may entertain a motion to any effect of the restructuring of divisions.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to recombine social media and communications into the communications division.
I second.
All right. So the motion has been made and seconded to eliminate the social media division, reassigning its responsibilities to the communications division. We may begin discussion.
Do we need it? Are there any opposed?
I mean, sounds sensible to me. I support it.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Anyone else have any discussion on the motion to eliminate the social media division? Hearing none, we will move to a vote on the matter, especially given the dearth of discussion. Is there anyone opposed to the elimination of the social media division and reassignment of its responsibilities to the communications division? Then by unanimous consent, the motion carries. Are there any other motions regarding the restructuring of divisions?
It's more of a question to the body at this point. Like, we don't have a field division director. I mean, Mr. Miller at the end of his term kind of indicated that he would be unable to carry it much longer as he was going to be leaving the country.
That is an impediment.
So, you know, even if we did fill it, it'd be an interim position. So I don't know if.
Well, I would suggest that as an open question to the body, it might be moved one way or the other. We could enter discussion about it in greater detail. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Make a motion to eliminate the field development division and roll the volunteer coordinator position under the direction of the vice chair.
All right, motion has been made to eliminate the field development division, reassigning the volunteer coordinator role under the direct management of the vice chair. Is there a second?
I second.
It has been seconded. We may discuss.
I mean, to me, is it really necessary to do that? I mean, we could just leave the position vacant for the time being, and then if somebody else comes along, thinks they're going to fulfill it, you know, we've already got the spot. We wouldn't have to, in the future, shuffle things around as the vice chair position changes, or we could shuffle it around later.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Chris, and if we look forward a few months in our future and we maybe have a petition drive underway, And potentially as we manage the organization more, less divisionally focused and more project focused, what used to be the field development division probably naturally turns into the pushing the ballot access project, and maybe just having that structure there that we can fill and reorganize. I don't think there's a really pressing need to do anything with it today when it's something that can maybe just be repurposed when we need it.
Yeah,
I'm not
I would
opposed to
agree with
getting
that.
rid of it, but
I mean, I'm on board. I just made a motion so we can move into discussion.
yeah.
Like,
Sure.
I get it. It's just something I wanted to discuss and see what people's thoughts were. And it's, we've kind of talked about, okay, where do we go from here? We've kind of moved some things around positionally, but having the division to be able, field development is very broad and can encompass a lot of different things. So, we can leave it vacant at this moment in time and just kind of repurpose it as we go.
I might suggest then, on the basis of the direction of the discussion, that a motion to table indefinitely or definitely to a point that we would like to revisit this would be appropriate.
Yeah, I would move to table it after the discussion to see what comes of realigning those budgeting resources.
Okay, so later in this meeting?
Yeah.
Sure.
So that is a motion to table definitely until the next item on the agenda.
Of 6B, yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second
Second.
tabling.
All right. Is anyone opposed to tabling this motion until the next agenda item is disposed of? Then unanimously that motion is tabled until the aforementioned time. Any other motions or business on the restructuring of divisions? Then hearing none, we will move along to the 2021 budgeting. As noted on the agenda, for those who are viewing the meeting online, portions of this agenda item may be handled in executive session. In the case that happens, we will leave an advisement on the screen, but members will not be visible or audible to the stream for the duration of the executive session. The vote to enter and exit are both matters of public record and will be recorded as such by the secretary, although the content thereof, that is in the session, may not be. So 2021 budgeting, for a brief introduction to this very exciting part of the agenda. I will go to Mr. Moeller in just a moment. The one thing that I will say, as I have expressed to the committee and directors previously, is that going into this particular round of budgeting, would like to set forth a budget which makes minimal allocation for necessary ongoing expenditures, the maintenance and operations of the divisions to the divisions, and principally focus our efforts in budgeting around statewide initiatives that we are trying to support or coordinate, and then bill to those projects the collected expenses of all contributory or participating divisions for their activities. This was a model that we tried last year with the presidential campaign support that we ran for the Jorgensen Group in Ohio, and I believe we had generally positive reviews there. So we'd like to attempt to maintain that perspective in the budget this year, trying to make sure that we keep a slightly clearer accountability of why money is being spent as opposed to where money is being spent. So with that, Mr. Moeller, you have anything else you'd like to preface the introduction of the budget item with?
No, I don't have anything else to start the conversation. I would tend to agree with the chair that budgeting relative to projects or initiatives probably reflects how we operate in the real world a lot better than budgeting via division.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Glazer.
might I suggest moving to committee of the whole while we begin the discussion?
We certainly could.
Just to kind of ease the formalities around the table as we discuss things a little more.
That would certainly be in order.
Move to do so? I mean, because you can do it at your suggestion as well. But
No, I can. I don't think there's a sideline implication for executive session from the committee of the whole, but we'd have to exit one to go engage the other.
I'm just still trying to think of where we need to go into executive session at this point. Most of our budget's pretty out there.
All right, well, then it has been suggested, and I would tend to concur, that this item would be more easily disposed of via a committee of the whole. So we will, at this point, enter
Is there any objection?
committee of the whole barring objection. If you have one, please raise it now. Then by unanimous consent, we will enter committee of the whole for the purpose of producing a 2021 budget proposal, which may be revisited by the entire committee. For anyone who's unclear, we are now a committee of the whole. Rules around discussion are somewhat relaxed. We can work a little bit more collaboratively at this point to produce a recommended budget, which then, as we reconvene as the more formal committee in business, we can vote on and discuss in formal setting. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, kind of last night, I've been looking at this for several days. So just last night, I finally started putting some stuff in. So if you look at the meeting folder today under the executive committee folder on Drive for the February 6th regular meeting, there's a 2020 budget review. And it's just a 3-column spreadsheet essentially for the budget, what we budgeted. Now, mind you, we did amend the budget 3 or 4 times last year, which we kind of talked about at the beginning of the year. In 2020, we passed a very conservative budget with very minimal, and said that, okay, if things change, we'll go and start expanding the budget. Because I think originally we budgeted like $20,000 in donations. And we expected very little because we did like 23 and 19. And final budget ended up being $30,000 for what we expected in donations, with 20% of memberships from counties that were affiliated going back to them. So we totaled our adjusted that we actually brought in last year was $51,193, $11,000 over budget. The fixed expenses were right about where we expected them. They're probably going to go up a little this year. I think we've looked at rent's going to go up, and I don't know if the insurance is changing it or not, but
Likely not.
The divisions, that's where we were at. There were a couple expenses that did go a little high that we could have readjusted budgets for. I think I remember what we spent on. I think finance was the member pins and member card info and things. A lot of that was donated, but some of it we spent money on. And then in the general, you see that we kind of broke into more project-based things that we tried to start with. Convention's been excluded from most of this because we didn't set a budget for convention. We told them to operate within what they were going to bring in, and they did that. The lifetime dinner, we spent a deposit, and that was it. And then candidate donations, and this is where there's a double asterisk down at the bottom. Candidate donations, we gave $2,250 to candidates last year. However, we didn't adjust our expected donations, and so our budget's in the red for last year. But we ended up being with a $12,000 surplus over last year than what we expected. And now none of this does include 2019 carryover. There was 2019 carryover as well, just like we had carryover from last year as well too. So, but this is where we're at. And just kind of a kickoff point and see what people thought. I personally, and I think some of the rest of it feel the same way, is the very conservative division budget of, hey, here's some basic funds if you need them for something simple, day-to-day crap for your division, but otherwise we don't want to spend massively for division. We'd rather spend large for the project. As the person that took the lead on the 2020 election expense, being able to work with the treasurer and the chair to be like, hey, is the money there? Yes. Okay, cool. We're going to spend it on this. And then we tracked our own budget within the project. And then, we were a little more fluid, because that way, like before this, we'd assigned a large amount to the division, and then the divisions had full discretion on it. And it was like, okay, well, what the hell are they spending it on? They're just spending it. Well, this way we, as the executive committee, have a little more control to say, here's your project. We want to see what your project proposal is. What are you doing with it? Okay, here's the funds for your project, and then report on what you did later when you're wrapping up your project. But that's more how it works in corporate worlds, maintenance worlds. You build to a project or a job, not necessarily to a department.
So from these figures, reviewing last year's numbers, we can probably start staking out a couple of the rough parameters for this year's. Would anyone like to suggest a form format or numbers as a starting point?
Yeah, I think if we start with that, it's a good.
Yeah.
And starting with fixed expenses is the easy place, right? So if we assume our internet PO box insurance stay the same, I don't think we have any reason to believe right now that those are going to change, and bump our rent from $7,800 to $8,100. I think that should all be pretty straightforward.
Yep. All right, so we're talking about the $8,100 adjustment on rent.
Yeah.
And did you have another adjustment on the PO box?
I think we should use the 160. We should use 168 instead of 154. I'm not sure why it was budgeted 154 last year. Somebody made a math error, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
All right, 168 at the PO box, 518 internet, 8,100 rent. Insurance stays at 501, which totals 9,287 fixed expenses. Anybody got any other revisions there or things that need to be accounted for that we haven't? I'm not aware of any changes to major fixed expenses outside of the fixed and variable expenses that we kind of hide in the IT division's budget for all of the computers.
Part of me would like to start moving the IT stuff into the fix, because we know it's there. It's not IT. It's, hey, we have to have this to run. Yeah, the IT division manages it, but it's really a fixed expense because it has to happen.
Some of it is.
Like Twilio, right? We should.
Yeah. I mean, we can, and I'm open to however we want to break that out, to whatever degree of specificity we want to afford those. I mean, I will note, just semantically for the sake of everyone's understanding, a lot of those are usage-based billing, so they are not perhaps as fixed as other expenses.
No, but we get a rough approximation.
Yeah. I mean, as evidenced by last year's nailing it, we can ballpark it pretty close. You were within $120 of estimate last year. Those are expected to increase. So, I mean, if we would like to do that, we can do so here. That would be call that IT infrastructure, perhaps, categorically.
I mean, is there a reason that internet and NAV are separate? If we're gonna throw everything under an
There-
IT umbrella, let's just.
There is a reason why the internet piece is separate, because we could frankly, other than the inconvenience of not having internet at the office, completely turn it off, and it wouldn't affect anything else that we run.
That's why
Okay.
I budgeted it. if push came to.
It's
Okay.
technically an office expense, and so, I
Okay.
mean, maybe there's
Okay.
a point to reorganizing even some of this, like, internet PO and rent under office
Okay.
and even more granularly.
We don't have anything locally hosted here.
Nope.
Okay.
The closest thing is
Okay.
this device and,
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we figured out why we had some lag when we first moved into the office, but I can talk about that later.
Yeah.
The other thing, I mean, we were talking about that. The other thing is expected donations.
Yep.
So to review like expected donations, 2019 we brought in just over $19,500.
Yep.
Last year we're at 41,000. We over doubled what we brought in last year.
A hugely successful convention, which was a major contributor to that.
And a lot of that was also we launched the member program, which was a big push.
And to that end, we do have some analytics from the payment processor on that. They give us a figure, monthly recurring revenue, which is a normalized figure based on all recurring billing. Some of those are annual, some of those are monthly, some of them are weekly. And I think there's an option to do daily. If anyone wants to do that, please, go ahead, send us money daily in any amount. That'd be great. lpo.org/donate. But the current monthly recurring revenue figure is at just shy of $1,800 normalized, which is it's a hair over 21,000 expected just on currently forecast recurring billing. So
January we brought in $2,045.
we've generally been beating that. The trend is up on that number. So I mean, with that in mind, I think a baseline of at least $20,000 this year is well within the realm of feasibility, and 30 is probably not insane if we want to work from that figure.
I mean, some of this is just like, I feel some of it feels really skewed because July we brought in $16,000. That was the month of convention. Some of that was a decent chunk was convention ticket pricing, but we hefted in some serious. We had 3 lifetime donors donate their full amount during July.
Yeah.
But other, like excluding July, we still averaged just over $2,000 a month. So,
I mean, so right now, leaving the income line at about 30 grand seems reasonable to me. Anybody want to change that top line? All right. With that said, worth clarifying that more money is always better, and we can revise that top line all day long. Let's send that one, like to the moon. That is a minimum expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Reorganizing the division section here, we still have communications. Events was eliminated last year. I already removed social media. Field development has not yet been eliminated. Finance, IT, political. With IT moving around there, if we set that to the same as the other divisions for general divisional expenses, and then give the special IT infrastructure line, I would suggest a $5,000 budget for this year, anticipating some increases and renewals on software as well as hardware for supporting counties, since that is liable to be significant.
well, okay, then that's a little split though, right? Because when we're talking about a fixed expense, something that recurs based on data usage or time. If we're talking hardware, that does need to be project out. And we can project that out now, hardware expansion, and we can allocate a budget for that. But that is definitely a project,
Sure.
Not necessarily a divisional or a fixed expense. Because we're really trying, like I said, if we're going to make the conscious effort to go to project-based billing, then we really need to start defining projects.
Sure. And then the following budget, it would become part of maintenance unless it was
Yes,
pulled
it
back
would
out.
be, as recurring maintenance occurs, it would become a recurring expense as opposed to a project budget, right?
Sure. Carrying cost for IT is somewhere around $3,000, or at least in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Possibly a little higher.
When you're talking about hardware, how roughly out of the $5,000, how much of it do you think that would be hardware that we purchase?
Rent
Rent, okay.
from Google.
Okay, that's
And
okay.
most.
If we start purchasing hardware, right now it doesn't matter too much, but we need to start thinking about depreciation.
Depreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now we dodge the depreciation question as well as a lot of the other concerns about maintenance and uptime and everything else here by using Google's data centers. DigitalOcean before that, but yeah. Also makes it cheaper to upgrade, frankly. That is a very back of the napkin figure right now at about $3,000. I think it actually probably should be a little bit higher, like closer to 3,500. Just looking at last year and some of the changes that have happened in the meantime. But if anybody has an issue if that's set at about 3,500, it leaves us just shy of $13,000 on fixed expenses, which
Makes sense to me.
out of 30 anticipated is not a horrific ratio. I mean, all right. So divisions are from last year set at $200 a piece for miscellaneous administrative expenses. You want to change any of that?
I'm fine with that. I mean,
Yeah.
we've kind of talked.
All right, so that leaves at present another 1,000 in divisional expenses. Lifetime dinner doesn't really need a line right now.
No.
Can we go ahead and put ballot access petition drive as a project?
Probably should.
Yep.
Been avoiding that
In
topic.
addition to printing the forms in bulk, I would also like to have specific location events for petitioning where we advertise that we're petitioning there and not just count on
Foot traffic.
casual drive-by attendance.
Some of the local counties, GOP and Dems have had real success with that, where they'll find a location that's friendly to them and they'll set up a table and lay out a bunch of petitions on a table and say, hey, you can come sign our petition, socially safe, and just keep a stack of dirty pins and a stack of clean pins. But because we're going to have to buy a crap ton of pins for those too.
Yeah, luckily pens are cheap.
Yeah, and you get a monogram cheap too.
Yeah.
Like, you get those stupid little crappy plastic ones with like a quarter of the ink for like nothing. So yeah, looking into I mean, that's a project, it's budget defined. Just, and it'll probably, and this goes back to, God, I asked for budget expansion on the 2020 election like 3 times. So we can just keep expanding this where do we want to start?
Yeah, but if we're serious, it's just like the existence of our party, it's probably half our budget, right? It's probably 15. If we have a $30,000 budget, I think it's $50.
I agree.
I don't know if anybody else disagrees.
Somebody's got a really hot mic.
There it went.
Do you need help?
All right. So
Do you sheet sponge?
can we get a number on that then? Do we want the balance? I mean, first off, anybody want to touch ex-com chair, CENTCOM chair, office expenses?
No, I'll leave it.
Okay.
So I still want. I like what John said. I like 15 grand to start with because our total fixed is sitting at 12. We're sitting at 1,000 in comms and 700 in the rest of it. So that leaves us a little bit of wiggle surplus if we make it at 15,000, and then we can reappropriate based on how we trend growth. because our budget's potentially going to go up as we gain members and gain counties, right? That's the goal, is that, hey, you become a county, hey, we're going to start giving you back 20% of every membership that's purchased through the state. So they're going to encourage their people to join. We're going to kick some cash back to them. We get some cash here at the top, spend it on, I mean, we spend it on them in the end, but like, that's kind of the goal here. We're really trying to move into the facilitating role at the state level.
Yep. So that leaves, as present, with adding 2020 ballot access at 15K, puts us at 15.7 in other general expenses, 16.7 budgeted variables, which is 29,487 with a $513 surplus on the year.
So
From 30 grand.
what?
Mine's not updating based on yours.
Can you just Control X?
Yeah. That is. Let me do this.
Hello, sorry I'm late. It's been chaos here.
Hey, Derek.
Derek, informationally, Mr. Shirley, your absence or potential absence was already excused by the body. So, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We are presently in a committee of the whole session working through the 2021 budget. It's looking like that. You guys got that updated now?
That's not, but that's okay.
Just look at your screen.
So do we have quotes already for the bulk printing of the actual petitions?
We've got 2 quotes.
What's it looking like?
Currently, Tom Press is the least expensive by a slight amount.
Okay.
And we can get 5,000 for, I think, 350 is what we were talking about.
Okay.
It's cheaper than we would be able to print it on a copier or printer in the office.
Absolutely. Okay.
So if we have a healthy project budget for ballot access, then I question what field is going to be used. Like, why do we need it now? I guess that was my point earlier, is if we're not going to have that, then field probably has to spend all that. So I guess just opinions from people. What's the purpose of the field budget? What are they going to, if we have a director, what are they going to spend that budget on?
That's the perfect way to phrase that question, Mr. Mullen.
And some of this goes to who's responsible, right? Because the way, and I talked about it in my vice chair's report, some of this that I'd like to talk about with projects is that whoever a division director or an executive committee member takes the lead on a project. And the person that is the lead is the one that says yay or nay on a budget expense for that project. So, hey, I'm the lead on this project. We need to do this. I say yes. I talk to the treasurer, make sure the money's there, make sure the chair co-agrees, and hey, we spend the money. Just like we had in the past for the SOPs for the division budgets. But you have to have a lead that's responsible, that you're the go-to for this project. You're the one that's got the, reportable authority on this.
Which does raise the question, to the question that was asked, probably nothing.
Well, it's where do you want to put this?
Does that need to be
Who's the lead?
a director?
Do you want to put the lead as the political division director? Do you want to put it as a member of the XCOM officer? Do you want to put it as the field development director?
I'd be happy to have leadership for that come out of the membership. I mean, if there's someone who wants to specifically focus on that, I'd argue for this project in particular, it would likely make the most sense for someone to focus on that nearly exclusively. It is, as was pointed out, hugely important. And deserves fairly undivided attention from someone. As far as whether that should be someone with another responsibility, I don't think we should say that it should or shouldn't be at this point. That would largely depend on who would be named, and that can be an open question for as long as the XCOM wants to have it be open.
Could we create an interim assistant political director position that would be their primary task? It would answer to the political director as to the direction of what to do, but they could be the one to actually run the drive.
Yes, we could do that, and that also, doing it that way would require no action on the part of the executive committee. I mean, we could just do that.
Well, yeah, I agree.
when we want.
My personal opinion is that we should limit project leads to members, deputy officers, and directors. You know, you want to keep this at a tier A level and then bring in junior staff as needed to complete a project. But,
Sure.
you know, we have the directors for a reason. They're supposed to be a lead. They can have whoever they want working under them, but they're the ones that are accountable to the chair and to the body for their actions.
And in general, I agree with you, and that's probably the difficulty in talking about ballot access as a first project. That's a special case. Like, we're starting with the exception rather than the rule in a lot of ways.
Well, then make a special sub under. I mean, we can create a subcommittee that reports to the director, you know, the body as a whole.
Some of this is a little outside the scope of budget, and while committee of the whole allows a little more flexibility, I would encourage us to stay focused on budget lines at the moment.
Okay, well,
knowing that we're about to revisit the motion on field development following this, and you know, whatever we decide to do with this particular budget, I think the only question right now is, are we trying to remove the field development line from the budget presently? And then if so, do we do something with the $913 surplus that leaves? Like, or just leave that unaccounted for so that it balances slightly positive?
I mean, my opinion is we get rid of the line for field development budget, unless people disagree.
Anybody want to keep it?
I would get rid of it. Historically, the field budget was to support picnics and fairs. I doubt we're going to be attending fairs in pandemic environment. So I agree that I was okay with just eliminating it as a division, even because of the spin up of the different counties.
Well, and to that point, I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that fairs are going to be at best a rather limited engagement, if any, this year. Likely not to happen wholesale, and if they come up, I mean, there's nothing to stop us from having, like, you know, a county fair outreach project or a state fair outreach project that comes up that exactly. We allocate money for, either in this budget or 22 or whatever. This then is where we're at on 2021 budget proposal from the committee of the whole. Do we have any other revisions to make before we move to dissolve the committee of the whole and submit as a recommendation budget to the executive committee this?
I like having surpluses in budgets. It makes flexibility nice in the future, so.
I would agree with the sentiments that it is not a required line item at this time.
Yeah. All right. Not hearing anything else, I would suggest then that we move to dissolve the body of the whole, submitting to the executive committee this as displayed recommended budget for 2021. Frankly, is anybody opposed? All right. Then unanimously we will dissolve the committee of the whole. Returning to the agenda then, in the 2021 budgeted item, we have received from the committee of the whole this recommendation for a budget in 2021. Is there?
I would move to adopt the recommended budget.
I'll second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded to adopt the 2021 budget as recommended by the committee of the whole. Is there any discussion? All right, with that, we will move to a vote given the vigorous debate. Is anyone opposed to the adoption of the budget as presented? Then by unanimous consent, the 2021 budget is adopted. That is authorizing expenses according to until December 31st, 2021.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Glasgow.
rise for a point of personal privilege to request a 15-minute read at ease for bodily functions and stretching.
That sounds perfectly reasonable to myself. The body will stand at ease for 15 minutes, returning at 11:35.
Can I just say I appreciate you guys? You guys are the best.
No, you're the best. Are you doing all right on minutes remotely there, Jen? I realized that I didn't start the like file copy recording for your reference either. I can get that started now if you want, but you'll have also the live stream. So. You're muted.
Go ahead and start it. I'm good so far, but we can just be safe.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and. I'll flip that switch as well. All right. Cool.
So,
returning at 11. Yeah.
Just because this isn't like super pertinent to today, but is there somewhere in the 2017 and 2018 folders the budget for the last ballot access drive?
It was never budgeted.
Okay.
Like it was never separately budgeted and hold. There were a couple random expenses that happened here and there, but
okay.
I looked. I'm not clear on the data. I mean, honestly, you're better off digging through contributions that happened immediately prior that were earmarked for.
Okay.
That data is definitely available. We budgeted for it. Because National spent a portion of it is why we didn't budget for the full amount. There should be a revised budget. I don't know how well the minutes were kept. There should be, maybe Linda might have it. There should have been a revised budget because what they did was revise the budget throughout the year because everything changed over and over and over again. But then there's also a spreadsheet on National's end that has all that expenditure data that we could get
I'm
to.
more just curious, like, okay, so how much did we actually spend on printing? How much did we actually spend on
yeah, it's all segregated. It's a big spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah, well, maybe I guess Dustin, between yourself, Jen, and John, if we could dig that up, because I was trying to look through some of it and was having trouble getting that full picture together. If there is another document that has kind of a master view of what happened, I couldn't find it. Granted, I didn't spend that much of my life looking for it. I like maybe an hour posting things, but yeah, if we can get a hold of that, it'd probably be a great starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the spreadsheet's probably on a Google Drive that wouldn't be accessible to the state party, but we can have access to it. I can get a copy of it, or I can give you access to it. I'll just have to talk to somebody who still is in the sheet. I'm sure Ken's still in there, so.
Okay.
I would like to take advantage of the fact that we are standing at ease, and I'm going to step out of the room briefly, which will leave Mr. Moeller in charge of the meeting until I return.
Cool.
Just sleep.
hers? Yeah. Doing swag. You should have seen me yesterday before I started. Oh, this is why I got moved off the 9 shelves so that we can take the swag places. Feel free to put it on shelves though. That's my pile to go out. So I'll take those out.
Those ones?
Yeah.
That's your time.
Yeah. I have.
I'll speak that when the meeting's over. If the week's up.
Thank you so much.
Well, everybody has babies, right? And she crawls, so if I could put her on the floor, it would be way easier. Because sometimes you might have to bring her around. And you have babies.
Yeah, I miss babies. Heidi and I are done, but like my youngest is 2, and
Jonathan,
which she was super cuddly this morning.
he looks so much like Dylan Fidget.
Jim.
Jim looks so much like Dylan Fidget. You remember him from him? With red beard.
Oh,
Minus
man.
the beard.
Yeah.
It's. I need to see him without the mask, but with the mask on, it's like doppelganger, eerie and mountain.
You guys want swag? Feel free. T-shirts, beer glasses.
It's usually county stuff yet. I might have to roll that.
Okay. Yeah.
I will ask.
I've got people that are close.
We have 2 people that are big, but I don't know if that's on.
I have people that are like right on the edge of Huron, like real close to Richland. I spend a lot of time in Richland and work in Richland.
Yeah, my friend Kayla and her husband, but she works 2 jobs and he's in school for accounting, which would be great for us, but I will talk to them later.
John, you want to see some fun shit going down right now? Still hot. No. This is supposed to push pause. So appropriate. Oh, so happy.
Body's continuing to stand at ease for another 7 minutes. Sure thing. While we stay at ease, I'd like to remind everyone that lpo.org/donate is available 24/7, 365, well, darn near anyway, and is a great way to support the party. Also, you can become a sustaining member at lpo.org/join and get yourself a shiny Libertarian Party of Ohio membership card with the very best designs available for such membership cards, updated every year that you continue to be a sustaining member of the party, as well as other thank yous for donations at lpo.org/shop. Including beautiful polos like Mr. Glasgow and myself are wearing today, mugs, etc., hats, and phone cases. This particular variant is unavailable anymore with the glitter in it because that got recalled for safety issues, but I got one. We do have non-safety issue phone cases available as well.
You still have the glitter phone case?
I do still have the glitter phone case, and I love it. I think it's a shame that it got recalled because it turns out the liquid inside may cause chemical burns if it gets out onto your skin. Working very hard to keep it inside the case, and I have been directed by the manufacturer to dispose of it, but I don't want to.
I was going to ask, is it affected by temperature, or is it like an antifreeze that doesn't matter? You're screwed.
It hasn't frozen yet, and I've spent a fair amount of time out of doors lately, so we'll see.
Real down what's going on here. Ursula has an appointment Monday. If her blood pressure is high, they're going to probably send us to the hospital to deliver. If it's not, then Thursday's the day, unless nature decides its own course. So it's coming.
All right.
All right.
Well, best of luck to you and her, Derek, and the whole family. It's exciting and stressful, and certainly all wish you the best.
It is. Thank you. Thank you. I'm a future member right there.
Yeah.
And Patrick, I finally thank you for the care pack.
Ooh.
Chair Cavoli,
Yes, ma'am.
before we get started back in, if you or anyone else is near Tim Smith, he has some clipboards and petitioning materials that he can donate to the cause in the general area up there.
Awesome.
Well, once I get back up north, I may give him a call then and detour down to Stark County, pick some of that up.
Yeah, I've got some clipboards on order here, and since my house is basically the Northwest headquarters at this point, I was gonna get one of those real estate information boxes and put it out by my garage. We're 500 feet off, so I don't have to worry about kids ransacking it. So if volunteers say they want a petition or a clipboard, they can come up here and grab it, even if I'm not home.
That's awesome.
Awesome, thank you.
And I did ask Tom to print 50 petitions for Northwest Ohio. We'll support up here as much as we can, just like during the Jorgensen campaign, so that we don't have to drain states' resources.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome that he already has the petition to start our bulk run as well.
Depending on when that order is placed, I may be able to deliver it at the, if timing coincides to save the shipping.
All right. Yeah, and I think as we get going on the on that ballot access petitioning, we've got key players, whether those are, and frankly, it probably shouldn't be regional liaisons as much as possible, given their other responsibilities as far as affiliates. But I know through that network, we'll likely have at least one major point of contact in each region to help facilitate that, and great model going forward. Keeping an eye on just some of the questions in chat. Even I know we're not in public comment right now, but issuing membership cards is something that is going to pick up again imminently here for the 21 membership cards. Mr. Glasgow commented earlier in the meeting that there's a little bit of equipment that we want to procure at this point to make that not an undue burden on mostly himself producing those here. So those should be back in production and heading out by the end of the quarter, hopefully. Maybe a little longer, depends on the supply chain. COVID's got all the shipping delayed.
I also make a request along those lines.
Certainly.
Would the state be able to, for a small fee, be able to support county membership cards? If we paid $1 a piece or whatever whatever it cost for that.
Not at this current moment in time.
Yeah, not
Okay.
presently, but likely in the future. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. With that, it is 11:35, and we have just completed new business item B, 2021 budgeting. There was a motion that was previously tabled to this point in the agenda, which is now live again. to eliminate the field development division, reassigning the volunteer coordinator to the direct management of the vice chair's office. We are back into discussion on that matter. I will remind everyone that it is in order now to discuss the merits of that motion as well as any further motions to postpone the question if we should so desire. Is there any discussion?
Since I was late to the party and missed the original discussion, can I just ask, is there a tactical advantage to this, making it more fluid to assign a person to that, as opposed to having to vote on it or something along those lines that makes this up for discussion?
Certainly. As far as the question goes, the addition of a division requires the recommendation of the chair and the consent of the executive committee. The elimination of requires the executive committee action. It is possible, and it was discussed, the possibility of simply tabling this motion off even further and just leaving the positions vacant until such time as we kind of dispose of this matter. I mean, obviously, I hope obviously, as long as this question remains open, the field development division's positions would not generally be posted or really taking much in terms of permanent appointments. As long as there's a possibility that the whole thing gets eliminated, I'm not going to install someone as a, with an expectation of a long-running directorship there. We could have an interim director or something along those lines. There's a lot of flexibility in how we manage it, practically speaking. The only thing that has changed since the last time the discussion was going on is that the field development division has no budget of its own into this next year here.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Nana.
Go ahead. Sorry, I yield.
Mr. Nana?
I don't
My hand's being dumb. I tried to raise it. It just keeps coming down on its own. I don't know what's going on. So I'll try chiming in. I have over the years heard more discussion over whether or not we should keep this division, get rid of it, change it, who needs to run it. We don't have a person to run it. I've had more time spent talking about that than actually like work being done from this division outside of like a couple of people who were pretty good field directors. So I think we should just get rid of the thing. I think we spend more time talking about it than actually gets done from there. But that's just my opinion.
I can speak as well.
Mr. Glasgow.
To speak to this motion now at this point, we've eliminated the budget. At this point, because there's no director, that leaves me by default the interim director. And I would like one less report to do. There's so many roles in this position that we can easily split off into the other 4 divisions and handle amongst that staff as well as with the regional directors, that I really don't think we need this division. It makes sense to me. Like Dustin said, if we get to the point that we have way too much going on and there's way too much crap and way too many people that we have to reinstate this division, it's kind of a good problem to have. We can cross that bridge when we get to it.
Point of information.
Yeah.
Who is the current volunteer coordinator and what's their day-to-day responsibility?
There isn't one. And I mean, do you want me to answer the responsibility question?
Yeah.
Anyway? Ostensibly, that would be for the purpose of fielding inquiries from people interested in volunteering, providing them kind of directory assistance to local groups or initiatives that are ongoing, to get set up with other, whoever's responsible to actually do some work, or going out and actively trying to recruit more leads for those purposes.
Right now, it's me checking the inbox.
Yeah.
And CCing somebody to a response to an email of, hey, this is the person that you should talk to about that. Or getting them hooked up with the right person. But that's really what it comes down to.
Are we still at ease here? Or are we still just talking?
We are in debate on the motion to.
All right, I got you.
Yeah.
Question. Does this also eliminate our structure of regional director, regional coordinators, and the whole downline?
No, that was reported on earlier, and basically the short version is the regional directors' roles have been put under the immediate management of the deputy vice chair presently. So the regional liaisons report directly through the vice chair's office to the executive committee. I can go into more detail about why with that if you'd like.
No, that's okay. I move to end debate and call the question.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to end debate, calling the question on the matter of eliminating the field development division, reassignment, etc. Is there any opposition to closing debate? The debate is closed and we will move to a vote. To eliminate the field development division and reassign the volunteer coordinator to the direct management of the vice chair's office. Is there any objection? Then by unanimous consent, the field development division is dissolved, volunteer coordinator reassigned as described, and the question is disposed of, moving us to item C in new business. 2021 Conference Organizing Committee. Preface, generally in odd numbered years. Sorry, Mr. Nana.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had my hand raised for when you were done.
Ah, gotcha. Preface then for the 2021 Conference Organizing Committee. Traditionally, in odd numbered years, Libertarian Party of Ohio has held a conference, a large event facilitating the social gathering, education, and kind of status updates aspects of the party's operations for members, staff, candidates, volunteers generally. It is an odd numbered year. We ought to entertain whether we would like to hold a conference, and if so, where. In general, I would suggest that this is best done by a committee responsible for the same. There's been a lot of challenges, of course, over the course of last year. There were a lot of challenges with our convention, holding that in person. Ultimately, we overcame all of those, and I congratulate everyone involved on that front. I would ask that we also consider the possibilities around format and venue for this as well, and if possible, provide that direction to the committee from the outset, given the fact that we are already in February, and this is going to be a high-speed assembly of an event, which is unlikely to be feasible before at least the end of the summer. In any case, Mr. Nana.
Yeah, I'm just super interested in helping with this. I would very much like to lead the charge on conference planning, if the body would like that to be my responsibility.
I think that'd be great. Dustin's done a lot of conferences and conventions. He's always on the ground and willing to go check out the hotels. He knows how to talk to these people, and he's done a great job in the past. And if Dustin wants to take the lead on the conference planning committee, that would be great. I'm sure we can get, I know I will help him in any way that I can. I'm sure we can get other people as well, but I would totally be on board with that.
Yeah, just give me a committee. Don't just give it to me, but yeah, give me people. Somebody I can have meetings with, because there's going to be a lot of decisions that I'm not going to be able to make on by myself, but I will need to make relatively quickly, like plate A versus plate B. Plate A might be more expensive, but it might be a nicer meal. You get the idea.
Yep.
But could I suggest that we identify a region and try to pull the committee most from that region? The boots on the ground are the ones that can actually go do the work. We don't need someone from Cuyahoga trying to bring something in Cleveland, or Cincinnati. I mean, you know what I mean?
I would agree. I think historically we've tried to move the conferences around the state and then hold the convention centrally. But I think with COVID, I don't know. I think it's probably best to hold it centrally. But that's
I would,
you know.
what I would tend to agree there as well, because we also did the last conference in
Toledo.
Toledo.
Yep.
Move it back centrally, and then possibly in 2023 we can move it out to one of the corners again, probably southwest, since you guys are growing like crazy in 23. But
Where was the 17 conference? Anybody remember?
So let's see. 2017 was after Johnson. It would have been.
That was.
Or
Was it something?
Run or Deer Creek or something? It's down south. I want to say that was that year.
I want to say it was Deer Creek.
Yeah, I think if we wanted to hold the rotation pattern, it would either go central or northeast this time, or southeast. I mean, if anybody has anyone in the southeast, we could always go there. But we're just very light on.
2017 was Deer. 2017 was Deer Creek. 2015 was Deer Creek. 2013 was Granville. 2011 was Mohican.
Okay.
So it's been a decade since it's been in Central Ohio.
All right. Sorry, somebody else looking to be recognized?
Does anybody else from this body want to serve with me, or anybody else that's on this phone call? That would be cool if anybody else wants to. I know that you are all people who will jump on the phone and actually be available. So, but if not, that's cool. I mean, we can find other people.
Dustin, online Michael Maines has reached out and said that he would help plan. I know he's southwest, but he definitely said he would help plan, and I will help on that committee as well if you would like.
Yeah, I'll take all the help I can get.
At our CENTCOM meeting, there was a discussion about maybe trying to make a regional conference involving like Indiana, Kentucky, that sort of thing. Is that still on the table for discussion, or are we too late for that at this point?
I had somebody reach out to me about that from Michigan a while back, but it was more of they were kind of just like in the same mode that we were, where like the state hadn't really planned anything yet, but they thought it was a good idea. I think there's enough support for it, but I don't know that there's enough, what am I trying to say, communication between the 4 states right now that
maybe we can do for that in 3 and look at the Southwest for that.
Yeah, in the future.
That would be really 23, and then for a regional and the Southwest would be a good call.
Yeah, easy access there. So in light of that, I would encourage everyone to communicate with our peers in the region to start the thought process around that. Not probably worth formally getting into any planning on there until at least next year. But I would like to have more than a few months to plan something like that. So if we have a good buy-in by the end of the year, we can form a committee and get after that one. Otherwise, for the purposes of the 2021 conference organizing committee, I will appoint a 2021 conference organizing committee, identically named, to be chaired by Mr. Nana, with additional members Mike Maines, Patrick Glasgow, myself ex officio, and any other members suggested by Mr. Nana and approved by the chair for the purpose of organizing and putting on the 2021 conference in the Central Ohio region. Is there any other business relevant to the 2021 conference organizing committee?
Hey, do I have a budget at all?
You do not presently. This would be perhaps an excellent time to maybe suggest that there should be one, or how that would work.
Yeah, there should probably be one. Yeah, I really didn't think about this, or I would have brought it up earlier. Yeah, let me have like let me think about it for a little bit, and then I'll come back. That way, we're not just wasting more time here talking about it.
Yeah, it would also be completely appropriate for the committee to meet, decide that there is a budget necessary, provide a recommendation, and report to the XCOM next meeting, and we can take that up.
Or between meetings.
Or between meetings, yeah.
Yeah, because we'll probably need something for a deposit potentially.
Yep, and that can be, whatever budgetary adjustments are necessary can be done by our normal between meetings process or at the next meeting, as you'll need. All right, well, thank you to the committee members and Mr. Nana as chair for your service in that regard. We look forward to your reports beginning next month.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other business regarding the 2021 Conference Organizing Committee?
Just going to bring up with the COVID concerns. I know there's talk about make a great streaming online experience in this one for people who don't wish to attend in person. So recommendation to Mr. Nana to make sure we have access to a really good internet connection, whatever venue is chosen.
Yeah, that'll be a paramount regardless. We want strong Wi-Fi and strong hard line internet. So I'm fully on board with that idea.
So all my equipment will be available again for the AV portion.
All right. That exhausts the time for the Conference Organizing Committee, moving us to item D, new business from the floor. Are there any members that would like to bring new business for the body to consider?
I totally did. What were we going to talk about? Mr. Chair, I would like to have further discussion of the organization of the ballot access drive and how we would like to handle it as a committee. Since we started to discuss this during the budget meeting and it wasn't the right place for it, I would like to open up a new topic in regard to that.
All right. Do you have a motion to this effect?
I don't know what you want.
Are you looking for? I mean, are you looking for just?
I just want to know
committee of the whole
what,
discussion and a recommendation.
Like committee of the whole discussion recommendation where we want to go. You know, we can currently it's dabbed away under the political because political deals with ballot access and candidates. I don't know if we'd like to elevate it out of political to more direct control under this body representation because right now it's a subsection of the political division.
Okay. Is there any objection to operating as a committee of the whole for the purpose of producing a recommendation on the organization of the ballot access petition drive, administrative organization, etc.? Mr. Nana, is your hand raised to an objection or?
My hand is just raised for discussion.
Okay, great. Then without objection, we will enter a committee of the whole, as mentioned, for the purpose of providing a recommendation on the organization and administrative structure of the ballot access petitioning effort. Mr. Nana, you may.
All right, so it's a question, I guess, sort of for Patrick, since it's under his purview. Would it make you more comfortable if we got all these documents that we talked about earlier, we got them over to you, and I could more or less act in an advisory role for you? Because I can tell you from past experience, having it under the control of the XCOM is not going to work. There are decisions that you're going to have to make within minutes, literally, and it's not an exaggeration. Like, some petitioner may quit on you. Some petitioner may be like, I need a paycheck. I'm not getting paid. You know, you might have to run to the bank and sign for a check. And it's not going to be like you're going to be able to get XCOM permission immediately. So the best way for it to operate is to have a coordinator for just the drive itself. And then the XCOM will pre-authorize that person to like be on the bank and do all this stuff, which is what we did last time. But I can get you all the information from last time and like exactly how we did it if that's helpful.
But I agree with you there. You know, like I said, we're trying to set this up as a project where there's a project lead. And if the XCOM would like to put the project lead of the petition ballot access drive, who serves as the coordinator on the bank account, or to take care of whatever for the signature requirements, et cetera, to speed things along, that works closely with the treasurer, that's fine. I'm fully on board with that. I just didn't know where do you want the lead position to lie? Do you want it with the political director? Because Kevin has minimal experience with
It was kind of their own standalone thing last time, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly.
It was, I agree, and that's why I'm saying we need the project lead should be someone standalone at the director level or higher. And if that needs to be me as the vice chair, that's fine. I'll take that project on. And it might be at the level of the vice chair because how important this is. But at the same time, I'm probably gonna have to appoint another. That's why I brought on a deputy, was to help with the other stuff, because there's got to be a sole focus here.
But it doesn't have to
My
be somebody
suggestion
on
would
this.
be that you do it. It doesn't have to be. My suggestion would be that you are the coordinator and that you work closely with somebody who's not on the board, who has more time.
Okay.
Because you're going to be doing other stuff too. But that's going to be dependent on what your time constraints are personally.
Yeah.
Well, I'll jump in here real quickly.
Project manager.
Go ahead, Jen.
You're saying like a coordinator and then a project manager's type of structure.
Well, that's kind of where we're moving at with this, right? It's very similar to how we operated the Jorgensen campaign, because this is on that level, if not larger, that, hey, this is a prolonged project. It's going to exist for a while. That you have a project that's assigned a budget this year, $15,000, that we have to achieve ballot access in an X time, which to date, I don't think we have set a timeline. We have some goals that we'd all like to meet, but nobody wants to put a date in it. But, we're getting there. It's just, we got to move through this. And that's fine. I'll take the...
Mr. Sterlo.
You're muted.
Muted.
I was make the suggestion during the budget meeting that it become a deputy director position under political, so that person will report to Patrick or whoever his replacement for that position is.
Yeah, I mean, simultaneously, we could just name an additional deputy vice chair specifically for that responsibility.
Okay.
See, I think that we're operating a little bit under the assumptions that we've always had and trying to pigeonhole this role into assumptions that we've always had. Talking about directors and deputy vice chairs are frameworks that we're all comfortable with, but it's not that, right? Deputy vice chair is not that. What we need is a project manager specifically for this who reports directly to the chair in my position, in my opinion. We appoint whoever that person is as a project manager for the ballot access initiative, reporting directly to the XCOM chair.
That's me.
I would also support that form of organization. I think it deserves direct management and a lot of attention from myself. With that being said, I would clarify, I do not have a name in mind. However, there are several people I am aware of within the party who may be interested in taking this up and spearheading the effort. If we are at least comfortable with that structuring, that we're going to have an independently named leader of that effort who will coordinate it and report to the committee directly through the chair, I am happy to organize things as such, and would do so by first off making a general call for interest via LPO.org, which just informationally will not be open very, very long. If people aren't motivated enough to submit their interest in a timely manner, I'm not interested in them taking the charge of this magnitude. Make sure that we get that information circulated to local organizations and membership generally, and go ahead and review that and make the selection. I will certainly consult with the executive committee for any objection to whomever I would name to that role. Otherwise, I think that's probably the most effective and efficient path forward for the body, which would leave us with no real business to attend to on this matter, and me with another item on my to-do list for the next couple weeks here. Yeah.
In the interim, I would like to ask that I be allowed to serve in that position until you formalize it, just so we can get the ball rolling on a few things, because we need a lead. Because I'd like to get some petitions purchased so we can start distribution. And
I will say somewhat more specifically that, I mean, okay, in effect, yes, is what I'm going to say, but like until that position is named, it's my job, but it's also my job to send as much of my job as I feel like your way, so I'm going to do that all in one breath. Does that make sense?
I gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Anything further here? Okay, then barring objection, we will dissolve the committee of the whole with the recommendation that the chair appoint a special manager of the ballot access drive according to the procedure outlined by myself a moment ago, and in their absence or incapacitance, be directly responsible for that effort himself. Any objections? Fantastic. That will return us to new business from the floor. With that recommendation received, we may either make further motions on that matter or other business. Mr. Strillo.
Just wanted to throw my hat in the ring for the Northwest Ballot Access Assistant Coordinator, I guess. So
once
I will be happy to help with this region as much as I can.
Duly noted and deeply appreciated, sir. Any other business from the floor? All right, then hearing none, we are about to get this wrapped up in fairly short order. We will move to public comment now. As this is the first time this has appeared on the agenda in at least recent memory, I will point out a couple of things. First off, this meeting is being broadcast publicly via YouTube. That video is available on lpo.org. If you go to the YouTube page itself, you can join in the live chat, which we have been monitoring throughout the meeting. Through that live chat box, if you have particular comments on the business direction or other activities of the executive committee, you may submit them there. I will read those aloud for the benefit of the body. Direct responses will generally not be given to public comment, but the comments will be heard and integrated into the considerations of the committee going forward by all members. So if there is any public comment, that may be provided as described. You all can are welcome to submit any feedback you have, and we will wait for at least a couple of minutes for any of those to come through before we may close public comment for lack of participation, if there are none.
No, man, you scheduled 20 minutes for it. You gotta stay here. We gotta stay here for 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's yeah. So that'll be until 12:24. On that note, any recommendations that anyone would have regarding better ways to handle public comment at executive committee meetings would be deeply appreciated. This particular mechanism is perhaps not the best, but something I felt was important to include, which is why I suggested it as a part of the agenda.
I can tell you how the LNC does it. The LNC has public meetings, and so like the meeting link wouldn't have been private to begin with, so it would basically have just been anybody in the gallery. And then when we move to executive session, we'll have to make a separate room but it would be just like if they pulled up a chair and we were in a room together.
Not that I would want to add to your inbox, Mr. Chair, but I could suggest a public comment at lpo.org email address that is publicly that is published for the people to be able to send you an email.
We have that at info@lpo.org.
We do have a general contact form. Although, yes, recognizing there is a difference between public comment as a matter of record in meetings versus generally. That
Yep.
might be one option as well.
I'm so done with this. Ready to resign from the Central Committee.
What?
I'm ready to resign from the Central Committee. I'm there.
What was that public comment?
That is, yeah.
Put it on the record.
We'll keep that. Okay, yeah. All right.
I'm ready. It was so done. Don't even know anymore.
When you guys want to set the next meeting, can we talk about that while we're chilling?
Sure.
Yeah. So, looking ahead, there are not major holidays.
Well, I bring it up
except
because
for-
I will be out the 6th and the 7th for Kentucky Convention, and then I will also be out the next weekend for a personal weekend retreat. So that leaves me free the 20th and the weekend of the 20th and the 21st and the 27th and the 28th.
I'm fine with either of those.
27, 28 is Passover and Palm Sunday, respectively. So may be worth avoiding that as we try to avoid major religious holidays for
20th.
most faiths.
The 20th is probably better anyhow because that 27th would be almost 2 full months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So it looks like the 20th, but
I agree with the 20th.
It'd be a bit much for me. Jeez.
I can't even.
Maybe the sun will be out by the 20th.
Right?
I'm available the 20th.
yeah. All right, so it's looking like we'll probably go for the 20th. If anybody has any conflicts, issues, other things you think of in the meantime, when we get to actually setting it, you can bring those in the meantime. So far, we've had no public comment. We still have several members of the public viewing online. As a reminder to everyone, if you would like to provide comment to the body, you may do so via the old chat box on the YouTube stream.
And if you haven't become a sustaining member of the LPO, please consider doing so at www.lpo.org/join.
Yeah, you don't even have to type the W's if you don't want, because it's 2021.
You don't have to take HTT.
Colon /.
Do I have to put the S?
No, when,
It'll redirect you automatically.
yeah, I was gonna say we've got the certificates. We've got that down.
Is anyone a member of an outdoor range where we could possibly hold like a competition fundraiser, like, rimfire 50-foot competition or something?
Requires a special insurance thing. We can do it. We have to. I forget what exactly we have to carry, and I don't remember if we currently carry it. But yeah, we have to get a special insurance rider.
We need a special writer for that one.
We would, if we were specifically participating, sponsoring that. I will mention separately that the Libertarian Party of Ohio is always happy to accept corporate contributions from any business that would like to support the efforts of the party. Our strongly pro-business stance in damn near everything. Those funds are always welcome, are highly useful to our operations and just basic expenses. And there would certainly be nothing stopping anyone in the state from specifically allocating funds from their business or certain events for the that they might conduct on their own separately to the party. I think I nailed the phrasing on that one. As far as what the party itself may participate in and fundraise for, we do usually run into insurance issues, especially with firearms. So that can be a little bit rough. Also, with respect to any, as a general reminder, any candidates or candidates committees who would like to fundraise jointly may submit to the executive committee for the formation of a joint fundraising committee and other such structures as required by law, so that nobody goes to jail. Because right now, we have generally not done much of that, given the extra overhead, but if anyone is particularly motivated and wants to do that as a part of their campaign, we are always willing to discuss it. And LPO.org/jobs always lists the available positions for which the party is recruiting. We have several central committee seats open on there, a couple of directorships, and we'll be posting more. However, if there's ever a role that anyone does not see listed at LPO.org/jobs that you think we should have, or that you would like to contribute to, participate in, please visit LPO.org/contact and send us an email expressing that.
It's meant to be one word, come see.
Hey, Dustin. Dustin, do you happen to remember how much that rider is when you looked into it?
Hold on, I heard my name. I was across the room. What's up?
Do you happen to remember what the cost of that extra insurance rider was last time you looked into it?
I have no idea, dude. I don't think it's that much. I don't think it's a ton.
That's definitely something we could probably look into between meetings.
I remember we talked about it. We had a person who was willing to help us out. We were going to raffle off something, and then we were also going to have people shooting, and it ended up being that it was going to be worth it, but it just ended up falling through for other reasons. So I don't think the cost of it made it prohibitive.
I think there's a huge difference in the pricing for like in general versus on this day at these times.
Well, that is true.
Yeah.
Covering a specific
That's what we were looking at. It's literally okay, we're insured for this day, and that's it.
Yep. This day at that location, you know.
Yeah, generally.
I actually had to get one for an event I did with my city council candidate in 2019. First Friday, we were handing out candy and doing a raffle for a T-shirt, and we had to get insurance for that. So.
Yeah, my insurance for my produce stand is like, I think I paid $250 a year for $1 million policy.
I mean, our general liability is what we were discussing earlier, which is about $500 on our. Did we? Is that $1 million or $10 million? I think it's one.
It's one, yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, so we should be able to get 10 for that, but whatever. It's a hard policy to underwrite sometimes.
We have like stuff that we don't need on it, but yeah.
It is really like I read over the policy. It's a little extraneous at some points. The best word for it.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, when I was younger, I ran a charity car wash, organized the whole thing, and I actually found an insurance broker to donate the insurance for the event in case someone scratched or damaged a car. I don't know if we have any members that are insurance agents, maybe they would be sponsor a one-day for an event.
Certainly, and it's worth noting that throughout the country, Ohio and Ohio's Department of Insurance is renowned for being a uniquely positive entity to work with, which is a great thing for the insurance industry in Ohio. We are certainly proud of that and the valuable services that it provides to citizens of Ohio and the country generally. always, the Libertarian Party of Ohio would be happy to partner with any carriers, agents, or brokers who might be interested in donating or facilitating insurance products or services to the party and or its members for purposes of party business or general life circumstance. Always willing to entertain those opportunities. And should anyone find themselves in such a position, please reach out either to myself directly, chair@lpo.org, or via the contact form at lpo.org/contact. This is the fun part of the meeting, y'all. Okay?
Public comment?
Yes. Public comment is always the fun part of the meeting.
Yeah, until the some of the members start figuring out that they have public comment.
Which ones?
We have not
You know
received,
exactly.
we have not received any comment from the public at this point. As a reminder to anyone who would like to make some comment, that can be done on YouTube via the chat box on the live stream.
Here's another future libertarian.
I do appreciate Mama Mac, how she's like watched every live stream since we started doing this.
Yes, a big thank you to members and the public generally who are watching the meeting and remain engaged with the business of the executive committee. I recognize it's a non-trivial expenditure of time and effort to keep track of these events, and your engagement is appreciated, and we are glad to have you here.
Running those.
There are 7 minutes remaining in public comment.
Would it be rude to make a motion to close public comment? I don't want to stay here for 7 more minutes.
I would suggest that it could only be maximally considered rude at this point. But it would be in order.
I would move that we close public comment at this time then.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any objection? Motion has been made and seconded to close public comment and move to the setting of the next executive committee meeting. Hearing none, thank you to everyone who has joined us from the public and mostly listened to our announcements during the public comment section of this meeting. Any feedback on public comment is always welcome. We would like to find better ways to facilitate more feedback from the membership at large, as well as the public. So with that, we'll move to setting the next regular meeting of the executive committee. It has been suggested, and I will submit to the body for the purposes of resolution unanimously, that the next executive committee meeting will take place on March the 20th at 10 a.m. at this location, the Libertarian Party of Ohio offices at 63, the usual address, and electronically by the usual means.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Glasgow.
I move to adjourn to March 20th at 10 a.m.
Motion to adjourn to March 20th at 10 a.m. here, and the usual electronic means has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any opposition to adjourning to said date and time and location? Well, with that, the next meeting has been set. Will take place March 20th at 10 a.m. Same place, same time. The usual will be updated on lpo.org for public observation of the meeting agenda, etc. And with that, the agenda having been exhausted for this meeting, we stand adjourned.
In the live stream.
Everybody.
Have a good. Talk to you later, guys.
All right.